ladies and gentlemen. What's up, beautiful people? It's Coach Ricardo Miller, and I'm excited to have another night where we're having a conversation all about effective living. You heard me correctly. We're celebrating 2 years of existence. And this month, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to dive into the talk of why effective living. And I wanted to talk to some people who have a passion and a commitment to pushing the envelope, exchanging a level of service to humanity to get all that they believe that they were created to get. I'm joined with my good friend and cuz. What's up, Herman Hudson Jr.? What's going on, cuz?
What's going on with you, man? I appreciate you inviting me tonight.
Hey, listen, man, we're celebrating effective living, 2 years in existence. It feels great to have launched this particular platform. I know you're aware that for some 24 years, I've committed my life to doing children's ministry. I was working with young people. And 2 years ago, I launched this platform. You've been following us on YouTube with the book. I mean, we've spoken on a number of occasions, man. And now we're celebrating 2 years. 2 years. Man, it's a joy of mine to be able to have this talk with you. But before we dive into our talk, man, tell our viewing audience a little bit about Herman Hudson.
Yeah. Before I do that, though, I'm gonna give you your flowers first and foremost. Because you say it's 2 years, but people, you got to know that he said 24 years. So watching from the sidelines, it seems like it's been 24 years, but. With the introduction of the, effective living, machine and, and all the movement and greatness it seems like it's been 24 years because, the ascension, your ascension is, is great. And you're an inspiration to me. So again, thank you for inviting me. A little bit about me, Herman Hudson Jr., native Texan, father of 5. Professionally, I'm a mortgage loan officer. So prior to that, was in the insurance industry adjusting claims. And, COVID brought me to mortgages. COVID brought me to the professional mortgage lending space. And, we can dive into that a little deeper, but those are the highlights of, me professionally. Like I said, father of 5, started right out of high school. I got a 17-year-old son. 14-year-old daughter, got twin daughters that are 12, and my son, which if you sounds like construction in the background, that's because my 4-year-old is going back and forth from room to room doing this thing. So hey, if he pops in, that's what it is, man.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's what's up. I love it, man. You're a family man. Man, you're committed to doing what you do. Tell us a little bit about the changes that you saw that happened in 2020 that is now crossed over into 2021 that you are now pivoting from and accepting and deciding to involve yourself with. A little bit about your profession and a little bit more about what's happening, what you're seeing in the industry.
Yeah, so for me, the shift for me was a mental shift. So COVID slowed down most people's worlds, and people were affected in different ways. You had, people affected financially, you had people affected health-wise as well. And, COVID came through my family as well, and we made it through and blessed to see the other side. I have close relatives that were more impacted than I was. So for me, 2020 was a mind shift because it slowed me down from, what we call windshield time, driving to work and driving back to work. And that time that you lose in that travel and that time and that disconnect that you have from your family, the first month, from hugging a cubicle for 15 years was, it was crazy in the beginning because you had to be around your family in some people's cases for the first time in a long time and be in the house together. So initially it was hectic. And then I got to see the little nuances of, the wife and the kids. And it's like, wow, I'm missing out on a lot. So for me, it was a mind shift of what's really important. And that's what moved me into the mortgage space professionally, because it's going to allow me to excel in areas that I'm uncomfortable, getting out, talking to people, selling, and not realizing that, a lot of times in life we are selling and we don't know it. You could be selling or settling, But I like to get into the sales, get uncomfortable so I can grow. And then just a little bit about the profession, the mortgage business. As many of you may know, if you watch the American economy, you've seen, the lumber prices, skyrocket. You've seen a shortage of houses. You've seen interest rates, lowest in history, right? So, all of that bottled in was, turned into the machine that said, okay, I'm gonna step into the industry, but then also understanding that you are in an industry where it's all on you. I only eat what I hunt. So that's where I am professionally. And that mind shift is what it was that got me. That's what COVID brought to me. It brought to me a mind shift.
I like you said a number of things right there in highlighting where you are, where we are as a country, even the world, when it comes to shift that occurred. I like what you mentioned about mindset, but in addition, let's talk about that hunt, that deciding to hunt. I mean, you're a guy, a young man, have a family, but you could decide to, man, hey, could you all send me a stimulus check, and I'm gonna just sort of play this economy thing on the sideline and put my foot up and play computer games and be a guy who's just waiting until something comes to me rather than me go out there and get something. You've been about getting something, taking what could come to you, but also going for what you can get. Talk to us about that. Why do you show up that way when you could be what some people would call average? You're not average, but you've committed to going after what you believe you're supposed to go after. What motivated and inspired you to go after what you go after?
Yeah, it's that, it's kind of the old adage that, the cemetery is filled with hopes and dreams. I wish I would, I wish I could have. And, just knowing that, I think I'll dip into life and death real quick, and I'll bring it back and try to make it make sense. But I think that, people aren't really afraid to die. I think people are more afraid of the unknown. They're afraid of, I didn't finish. It's always well, I'm not going to get to see my kids do, or I'm not going to see, get to buy that car. I'm not going to get to go to that wedding or walk my daughter. It's always to me, it's an incompletion of an event. So, when you think about wanting to change and wanting to dive into something, it's like, well, the time's going to go by regardless, whether you act or not. That's the thing about time. It's going to go by regardless. So, for me, that mind shift was a lot about just, you either going to do it or not do it, and like I said, that dash on that headstone, just tying back into the death, like that's where all the work is done. You born in a year, you pass away in a year, but that dash is where all the work is done. I mean, if you think about it, the dash should be much longer. That the dash should go the dash should go across the headstone. You know what I mean? They have a short dash in between the years, but that's where all the work is done. So for me, that desire to hunt was just about, just living, the cliche phrase of living your best life, but, just trying to tap into your gift, exercise your gift, and in some cases monetize your gift. That's what it's all about.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're joined with my good friend and brother, Herman Hudson, and we're talking effective living here. We're talking about the hustle, the drive, the determination to go after what you believe you're supposed to go after. I like what you said, that dash, the day you arrive, the day you leave, they often indicate that on your tombstone. However, I like the fact that, according to the year, they should give you a little bit longer of a dash. But that's not the case. And the truth is, we don't know when it's going to come to an end, but we do know when we show up on when we wake up every morning, you just realize I have another day. I've been given another day, and or I've been given another month. I've been given another year, and the reality is that I need to do what I can with the time that I've been given. You've been watching the platform Effective Living, man, and what's your view on the whole term effective living? We coined the concept of this platform around 5 pillars: faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. the whole dynamics of there's a right way to live and then there's a wrong way to live, or there is a healthy way to live and then there's an unhealthy way to live. The unhealthy way punishes you and the healthy way rewards you, and we watch a lot of people being rewarded and don't realize oftentimes that we too can be getting the same type of reward if we would simply engage ourselves in more healthy practices. When you look and have been really getting closer to this platform of the term effective living, what's come to mind?
Well, to add on to the effective living part, I know another part of the effective living is, living a life you don't have to take a vacation from, and that to me means that just like the word says, you're living effectively. So what you get in, and this is in the book as well, if you hadn't read the book, that boomerang principle, which I know we might get into, but it's in there as well. Basically, you get out what you put in. So to me, living effectively, it really just goes back to, kind of what I was saying earlier, where, you are going to reap what you sow. And I think that's in the Bible. That when that blood rushes to your muscles and you get stiff and you can't lift that, lift additional weight, that's a building block, that because oftentimes when you, I'm trying to think of the adage, it'll come to me in a minute, but all reconstruction has some violence in it, right? So you have to break down that muscle, you have to tear down that building and then start to build blocks on it. So living effectively is just continuing to move towards the destination, move towards the goal, set new goals, and just knock them down, because we're on this treadmill of life, so you want to be healthy, you want to live effectively, you want to think positively, and know that there are going to be some negatives and there are going to be some bad times and those valleys, but living effectively is just, like I said, tapping into your purpose and living it out every day, the one day at a time, 1 hour at a time. And then also understanding that there's going to be some troubles along the way.
Man, and won't it be, the reality of it is, as you mentioned just now, that trouble along the way. A lot of people don't build with that understanding. If you're in Texas, the possibility of a tornado is real. If you're in California, an earthquake is real. If you're in Colorado, a blizzard is real. If you're in the Bahamas, a hurricane is real. You know what I'm saying? If you're in the Hawaiian area, come on, a volcano eruption is real. The reality of it is you can live a long time and not see any of those things. But the truth is, all depending on where you live, the possibility of one of those showing up and disrupting all of what you put out is real. Now, with that said, I like what you mentioned about you introduced really the focus of our talk today, and that is about the boomerang effect. The need to study the whole term of the boomerang effect. Let's go there for a minute, because it really goes into what you mentioned just now. What you sow, you reap. The whole idea that I want better in time, but if I do better, I increase my chances of getting better. If I do the work on the right side of things, it increases my chances of getting the return that reflect the work that I put in. A lot of people aren't getting that. A lot of people thinking, well, I think people are just lucky. What's your view on the boomerang effect versus being lucky?
So luck is not a real thing. It's just about when preparation meets opportunity. Luck is not, I don't believe that luck is a real thing. They call it being in the right place at the right time. Well, I would say you lifted the right amount of weights to move that weight when it got in front of you at that occasion. And there's no such thing as rising to the occasion. You did the work, therefore you're able to get through the situation. So the rise to the top. Oh, I'm sorry. The rise to the occasion is, if a police officer, a trained police officer gets in a scenario where there's danger, they're going to revert to their training. If you get into a situation where, you're in front of a crowd and you have to speak, and this is what you've been doing for 24 years, you're going to revert to your training. So, oftentimes when things get tough or things get difficult, or, it's a scenario that you haven't met with, you're going to revert to your training. So I would say that luck versus the boomerang principle is you get on that stage and you rock it. You rock that thing because this is what you've been doing. This is what you do. Going to the professional athletes, these guys, coming down, people can Google a clip of Steph Curry making 105 3-pointers in a row, like 105 in a row from the corner of the 3-point line. So it's no luck when this guy shoots a shot, turns around and starts walking back down the court before it even hits the bottom of the net. And it's about when preparation meets opportunity. I don't believe that luck is a thing. I think it's fancy, and I think it can stroke your ego in a way that'll make you feel better. But oftentimes it's when you've prepared for the moment, or done some work in the moment that may bleed over into an area, and you're able to get through that scenario.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined with Herman Hudson, and we're talking today about the boomerang effect. We're talking about effective living. We're talking about principles necessary for getting all that you can out of this life. Listen, guys, effective living is celebrating 2 years. Yep. It's 2 years of this initial platform being set up, but as Herman mentioned early on, 24 years of extended service that is very supportive of this 2 years. Check this out, guys, because we're having a special event that's coming up. We want you to be a part of it. Check this out. We'll be right back.
Today, I had the distinct pleasure of being with Effective Living, doing exercises with Miss Sonia. Today we had a fun day out here at River Legacy Park. The Effective Living community came together. Day with Effective Living today. We had a scavenger hunt, a nice walk around the park, as well as a great workout with Miss Sonia. We were dancing, we were doing burpees, but it was all in fun. We have also had an opportunity to meet new people, and it has been a great day. You're not a part of the Effective Living community. We want to encourage you to do that because it is a place that we can continue to have fun. Involved a lot of dance moves as well as just basic workout moves, so it brought everybody together for all ages, and I think it was a great, fantastic workout. So next time we have something, we want to see you there. The more the merrier, and join us in this journey to create a life you don't need to take a vacation from. Our next Effective Living event will be July 17th. Mark your calendar, Saturday, July 17th.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We've been doing it, man. That was our Fitness in the Park last month. And we're excited about the event that we're having this month called Fun in the Park. We're going to be celebrating our 2-year anniversary in Arlington, Texas. A good, fun day celebrating life. It's important that you learn to enjoy the journey as well. Herman, I would like to dive into this whole taking responsibility for how we show up. I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes we get information late, but when we get the information, the importance of grabbing a hold of it and then doing the work to get the results that we desire. What's your view on taking responsibility? Because the truth is, there's a pie out there, and we can get a piece of the pie. But if you're making your life full of excuses, it limits you from getting your pie piece or your piece of the pie. What's your view on taking responsibility in your journey to living life effectively, understanding how life is being played out to some degree?
So, I'll play on the words a little bit of the effective living, right? So, effect being kind of the result, right? Yeah. So when you evaluate the results, if you start there, if you start from the end and work your way back. So if you evaluate the results and they aren't ideal, then naturally you have to, right? You know what comes next. You have to take responsibility for, the lack thereof. Or it's like, well, I've knocked down this goal. I had a target of losing 8 and I'm at 10 pounds down. So now that maybe there's a cheat day in there, right? But that's, now you can take responsibility for the work that you put in, because you've evaluated those results. And if you're setting a goal, it's okay to I won't say it's okay to have a cheat day, because oftentimes if you're just starting a movement, or, unlike yourself, you've been doing this 24 years, then, cheat days are involved. But if you're starting on a new journey, it's not time to cheat. It's time to put your nose to the grindstone and no days off type of thing. But you do want to set small goals. That way you can assess where you at, evaluate those results, and then take responsibility for where you're at today, where you're at in week 3, where you're at in week 6. So, that's the way you take responsibility, is you do that evaluation and see where you're at. And, you got to have that man in the mirror discussion, or woman in the mirror discussion on where you're at and how to proceed forward from there.
Herman, over the years, I moved to Texas some 20 years now. And one of the challenging things that I found to be as a young man is making sure that I'm surrounded by the right people. That there are a lot of good people in the world, but then at the same time, there are a lot of distraction that comes through people as well. And on your journey to living life, there are some people who are going somewhere, and then there are some people who are just outright not engaging at all in life. Your views on this association on the journey. You're wanting a better result, but at the end of the day, you have to pay attention to who you're around, and sometimes who we're around in relations to the productive people that are on a journey to getting something out of life, and then those who may not be getting anything out of life. They come in shapes and sizes and in all different positions, so you don't get to determine who they are in relations to who don't want anything. It could be your homeboy from elementary school. You all was hardcore close friends for 20 years. And now the light bulb turned on in your life where I want to go get mines. And he's still just wanting to chill. He's just wanting to, it doesn't matter, the journey with association and that whole thing working itself out effectively. What's your view on that, man? So
every time you said association, the thing that came to mind was guilty by association. It's tapping into the Texas, this example in the probably in Texas. That's where I grew up at. So you have the stories, and a lot of people may understand this in the United States, that you go out and you do a crime, and your buddies, you're in the car with your buddies, and they go out and do something wrong. The state of Texas, oftentimes you're gonna be guilty by association, right? You're gonna go down with them. And so the flip side of that's the negative vantage point, but the positive vantage point is your network being your net worth. So if you look at there's some different scenarios, but the 5 closest people to you, whatever income they're making, the average of what they're making is close to about what you're making. Do the test on your own. Don't believe me. Just look at it. Say the 5 or 6 people that are closest to you, if they all 100,000, if they're millionaires, thousandaires, dollaraires, if that's a thing, if they all broke, then oftentimes you're going to be in that same boat. And if you find out that you doing 100,000, 200,000, you a millionaire, and all your friends are less than, you in the wrong circle. Because what's going to happen naturally, just by that association we're talking about, is either you're going to be pulled down or you're going to be brought up. There's no other way around it. You know, it's you know, I won't say it's crabs in a bucket, but it is, again, natural that we are products of our environment. So getting around the right people, partly how I believe this connection has come tonight is because watching from the sidelines of, you know, the effective living movement, and, you know, in your rise, it's like there are parts and pieces, you know, in areas that I'm weak, right? And I want to strengthen those things. So naturally I have to get around people who can help me, or I can at least sit on the sidelines and just soak up the game and model my actions from, and say, okay, well, this is how we can move through a scenario that I'm not familiar with. And then again, just going back to the prior question, when, you know, you get into that situation, that preparation, you know, when the opportunity meets that preparation that you put in, then you can prevail from there. So your network is your net worth.
Yeah. With that said, man, you know, when you start to realize, you know what, I could be six figures, but you realize, you know, all your homeboys, they're not even close to six figures, right? The conversation and the acceptance of having to release yourself from one circle to go into another circle, the discipline and the determination that says I have to shift, a lot of people aren't prepared to do. They're not prepared to make the shift because it's uncomfortable. You know, it's uncomfortable. When you have had to make those shifts over the years, what was some of the determining factor that helped you to make the shift?
So it goes back to, I would say the most recent is going to be the COVID. And I want to speak, before I go into that answer, is about the uncomfortable part. So that the example that you give, you know, if someone is working out, you know, and you're trying to get to, say, 30 reps,
yeah, and
you get to 25, now it's uncomfortable. Yeah. Now your feet, and this is bench press, now your feet come off the ground. Now your back is arched. Yeah. You know, now your whole body is tense trying to push this weight off you, you know, metaphorically. You know, if you're growing up, ages 13, 14, you hear about the kids with the growing pains. They got pains in their heels. Yeah. They got, you know, pain in their back because they're growing. Like it's a painful process to grow. I tell my children oftentimes that when you get to that math problem and you just can't figure it out, you stuck. That's the learning process. Yeah. You about to learn something. I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, you trying to figure it out, and you stuck. But you know, you come out on the other side, you get that answer. You just learned something today. So that's a process. It's like your brain has just earned another wrinkle. You know, every time you run into that situation and you stuck, you're about to learn something. That's the discomfort part. And I probably got off topic with the initial question, but I wanted to dive into that discomfort piece.
Yeah. That's really good. And I've never thought about it like that. But the reality of it is in that place of discomfort. If you can push past that, it is where that growth process kicks in. Yeah. You know, that growth process. Now, you want more. I want more. Discipline is required for more. If you're watching us today, we're talking effective living. We're talking what you put out, you get back. The whole idea of going for more. The world has unlimited resources. One of the things that I realized, Herman, is that I want all that I could have based on my potential. I don't want what you could have. I don't want what Jay-Z can have. I don't want what Obama could have. I want what Ricardo could have, because I believe that I was built to carry something significant that my potential says I'm capable of being. With that said, there are a lot of people who don't push themselves to their highest level of potential being maximized. And then you end up finding sometimes people end up getting at a place in their life where regret kicks in, because, you know, it's like watching the ball game and you say, man, I can outplay that dude by far. You know, you see the guy on the news, Man, I ripped him up in high school. I'm so much smarter than him on the guy on the news, though. He's on the news. But I'm sitting down at home. I'm smarter than him. And, you know, I'm hanging out with my friends and we're watching a ball game. And I'm like, you know, I schooled him in high school. Yeah, I see him playing on TV, but I schooled him.
Yeah.
You have the potential to beat these people, but you're not maximizing your potential to get what you could have gotten. What's your view on that? Because there are a lot of people who sit in the seat of observation, judging others who are playing the cards they've been dealt with well, but the people who are watching sometimes are capable of doing even better, but they're not even in the game. What's up with that? Yeah,
so if you haven't made $1 million, and I say $1 million because it's the most easy and wide used term, right? So if you haven't made $1 million and you're sitting on your couch or, you know, on your chair or wherever, and you're criticizing a millionaire, then the joke's on you. I mean, the joke's on you. Like you've missed something. Like there's something that hadn't connected. Like the joke's on you. So you know, to elaborate on that, like I mean that's what we do. You know, people do the Monday morning quarterback, and yes, I used to school him in high school, you know, or you know, with a female, I used to school her in high school, and you know, I can do better. Well, the reality is that you didn't do better because you know, you have the you know, the American scenario or the American movie highlight of that guy that had all the talent, right? But just didn't have the work ethic. And they have these types of stories on like 30 for 30 on ESPN and you know, people that were a bust and whatnot, or so-called bust, because they had all this talent, but they didn't have any of the dedication. And you know, I think oftentimes that, you know, we are often sometimes given things and we take them for granted. You know, if you know, sports wise, just going back to the sports analogy, you know, if you could jump out the building and jump over your opponent anytime you want to on the basketball court, then you may not necessarily work on, you know, your strength all the time. But when that guy that's getting jumped over, they're staying hungry and they work at it and they work at it and they work at it day after day after day. And then you look up 2-3 years later, you know, it's a little bit more tougher for you to dominate. So, you know, if you, again, just going back to that saying, like, if you making fun of someone that is quote unquote higher than you, then the real joke is on you. And I wrote this down when you were saying unlimited resources. The world has unlimited resources. I want to talk about that real quick. I think that the world has limited resources with respect to things that we can use, like oil and you know carbon and all this other kind of stuff, right? I think those are limited, but I think the unlimited resources are the resources that are within us. Because I heard this morning about ego, and some people use, you know, they use ego. Ego is edging God out. I've heard that saying, right? But the ego is real tricky because the ego can have you chasing things that you already possess. Because you can be thinking like, oh, when I get this Benz, oh, when I get this Range Rover, oh, when I get this house, when I get this car. And I heard a guy say as well, who's, you know, multimillionaire, he said, I got $1 million. And it was like, is that it? And then you want to get the next one and the next one and the next one. And after a while, you realize it's not those things that society tells you are successful or are the things that they're going to make you happy. It's all internal. So that ego is real tricky because, again, you can be out here trying to satisfy yourself with things that can never bring you joy until you figure out what it is on the inside of you that brings you joy, brings you peace, brings you all those different things. And, you know, you can live effectively. You know what I mean?
I like it. Listen, I was just talking to a client a couple of days ago, and I said, you know, the Bible talks about a leader individuals being given the opportunity to lead groups of 10s, 50s, 100s, even thousands. There are some people who have been called to lead 1,000, but the guy who is called to lead 10, if that's what he was called to do, and he goes home and he loves his kids and he enjoys his home and he's taking care of his body and he's managing his resources, I said, if he has hit what he was created to hit, and another guy was called to hit 1,000, but he's only at 200. I said, the truth is the guy at 200 isn't more successful than the guy of 10.
That's a fact.
The reality of it is the guy who is hitting the 10 goal is hitting the goal to which he was placed here to maximize. And so some people don't want the 100. Some people were called to the 10.
Right.
Most of us are watching and engaging ourselves in society from an external position, as you just mentioned, where we're looking at the gauge factor that society says is success, which is if you hit 10, you should go for 50. If you hit 50, you should go for 100. If you hit 100, you should go for the 500. When the truth is, your success may preside within the 100. And when you hit your 100, now you're learning how to manage that and duplicate yourself to help others learn how to manage theirs so that we don't end up losing our lives, but we now enjoy our lives to the place where I am where I belong. So someone said, well, you haven't moved in 3 years. You haven't moved in 5 years. I may not have moved, Herman. I may have helped 100 people to move equally so, because I found my place, and now I'm helping others to find their place, which is why I believe the concept of creating a life you don't need a vacation from is that I don't get promoted out of my calling, and I am not trying to chase after something that moves me out of the place of where I believe I belong. Because when I find the place where I belong, you can live there for the rest of your life. Yeah. And the interesting thing about Warren Buffett, he's been in the same house for more than 3 decades. When there are people who'll be like, if I was a billionaire, I would probably change my house every 3 years or every 5 years. Well, when you find the place where you belong, you're not running after anything anymore because you are where you belong. What's your view there? That finding that place where you belong, which society doesn't push too much because it's always promoting something more.
Yeah. And that's what's so tricky. And I won't act like I have the answer because I think it's different for different individuals. We all have our different journeys that we're looking for. And I think it's all internal. Because even at the end of the day, if ice cream is what makes you happy, it's still a mental connection that you have to that feeling that you get from that dish. It's still a mental connection. If it's cars or if it's money or if it's females or males, like it's still a mental connection. So you're trying to figure it out. The moving thing is what I just wrote down when you said, where it's like, hey, I haven't moved, but I'm helping other people move. Immediately what came to mind is that you standing in the middle of a trampoline, if you can imagine this, and you're not moving vertically, but you're moving, laterally, you're moving out, right? You're getting bigger, but you're moving side to side, left, right, front, back, but not necessarily up. They can't see you yet, right? So you help 5, you help 10, you help 20 or what have you. And as you get bigger, the trampoline starts to get lower and lower in the middle, right? And at some point, as they start to quote unquote take off, those people that you help, as they start to move up vertically, you were in the center. So as they take off, you were once down, you'll be catapulted up in the air. And then they'll be like, well, where did he come from? Yeah. Well, he was holding all these people down. Metaphorically, he was holding, like, the term in Texas, hold me down, right? You were holding all these people down, giving them what they need. And then when they took off, you took off with them. And it's like he came out of nowhere. But, if you've been watching The Effective Living and watching Ricardo for the last 20 years, he's been putting in the work. So, if you just happen to see the brother on national, well, you're already on national. But if you happen to see him, all across the news, then it's like, well, he's been putting in the work, and that preparation has met the opportunity. So, but to go back to the mental piece of it is, I think that it's important to try to do that work early in life. That way you're not 60, 70, and especially if it's a physical goal that you have, because your body will slow down, your mind, keeping your mind sharp. So work on that mind early in life and trying to find what it is that fulfills you, and then work on that. And then you're even more blessed, 100 times blessed, if you can turn that into a monetary gain. And like they say, you'll never work a day in your life. And travel. That's the last thing that I'll say on that mental part is travel, because seeing the world and seeing that you don't always have it all figured out. Other societies do things in different ways will also humble you. And that's something that I'm going to do, is travel as well.
I'm going to bring our talk to a close with some really interesting question. I felt inspired to push you a little bit, Herman. I'm going to push you a little bit. Yeah. But looking back over your life and thinking about, hey, 25, years early, you didn't know what you know now.
Yeah.
What would you say? Boy, I really didn't know this 25 years ago, but I sure know it now. And I'm grateful for knowing it now because I'm owning it. What would that be?
Man, so many things.
Say it.
So many things, man. Like from it start, and it all starts on the inside. The biggest thing is, like I said at the beginning of the top of the show, that I'm a father of 5. So that's a learning experience every single day. You understand? Like every single day. And we and you have talked about this separate too, but the knowledge and the growth of trying to guide another human being, guide another individual in the quote unquote right direction, because oftentimes as a father or as a leader or a mentor, you're trying to figure this thing out yourself, and you learn things along the way. You'll learn something from each client. You'll take a piece of your client away, and your kids kind of, but not living vicariously through your children, but then trying to lead the way when it's a scenario that you haven't faced. So for me, it has to be not only fatherhood wise, but as a husband as wise as well. Areas that I failed miserably in, going back to that ego, thinking I need more, thinking I have to do more, being 100% transparent. If I knew those things, things would be different. But it's also, my wife says all the time, 2-3 times a week, or sometimes 2-3 times a day, everything happens for a reason. And that kind of goes back to that boomerang. You put in the work, and you get into the situation. Well, going back to the boomerang, where you put in whatever you put in, you get back. So that's gonna be the number one, man. It's got to be the parenting and understanding how to lead folks, and then also in my personal relationship, being a better husband.
I've spoken with you in person, on the phone. We're doing this live now. One of the things that I continue to see being presented through what I'm hearing, and I want our viewing audience to hold on to however you respond to this, is that inward work, that learning to get to the point of accepting Herman and his responsibility moving forward from the inside out. And it's very clear that you're not living from the outside in. And when did that light bulb turn on for you? What would you say was the moment you started to realize it wasn't really the outside that determined the success that you would have acquired in life at any given moment, but you needed to get a balanced acceptance of an inward consciousness to move forward? When would you say that light bulb turned on for you?
I would say the light is dim, right? So, you have the lights in houses where you flip the switch, right? And the light comes on. And then you also have that dial, right? That you come up. Yeah, the dial's still going up, man. The light is dim, just being 100%. The light is on, but the light is dim. And it continues to get brighter, and that's a work in progress. Try to understand that. Okay, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm bad at. This is what I need to work on. Like the light is on, but the light is dim, and it continues to get brighter. So, but I would say most pivotal, if it went from, let's say you got 5 levels of the light and it went from 1 to 3. This last scenario with COVID was a huge awakening, in that you got to understand that, not necessarily what life is all about, but what things are important to you, and just kind of line those things in your head mentally. Because our senses, being like our 5 senses, what we hearing and smelling and seeing, they're heavily on the way we act. A blind man his other senses are gonna be heightened because he lacks one. So if you're seeing these things every day, right, be mindful of what you allow in, because it will come out in some shape or form. You got to be mindful of what you take in, what you listen to, because it will come out in some shape or form. So, and those are the 2 biggest ones: you seeing and what you hearing, and then what you saying. because be careful of what you're saying, because those things can sometimes go into other people, damage them or repair them. And then, oftentimes just adding this other little adage in, because I like little sayings, but, entering a room and just being quiet and not saying anything. Because oftentimes when someone starts to talk, you know exactly who they are once they start talking. Sometimes you just want to sit back and listen and absorb. So the light is dim, my brother, but it is on. It is on, and it continues to get brighter.
I like how you describe that, though. The light is dim, but it's on. Yeah. And that's the important thing. And as long as you're living, your goal is to get a little bit brighter, get a little bit more conscious, become a lot more aware. And I think that's the key. Ladies and gentlemen, last year, as we were in the midst of a pandemic, I was blessed enough to be able to produce a product. I called it a tool on your journey to living life effectively. Check this out, and we'll be right back. Make sure you get your copy today. Go to the website, ricardomiller.com. Order your copy of Effective Living, the book. It's really a good read. It's easy to read, and it has practical things that will help you on your journey to creating a life you don't need a vacation from. Herman, as we bring our talk to a close, man, I first want to thank you again for joining me this evening. I think we've dived into some stuff that really, if someone was watching us, my goal is that they would grab a hold of something that others may just have bypassed, but it was the thing that they needed. And the thing about the light switch that turns on in a person's life, we don't determine when those come on. Yeah. You have children, and I have a son, and one of the things you notice is your wife could be saying something week in and week out, month in and month out, and then you come home, you say it one time, and your son says, "I did that," and then he says, "I've been doing you that for weeks." I know, one person could have been saying it, a teacher could have been saying it, or both of y'all could have been saying they go to church or they go to a grandparent's house or someone else's home and come back home like they got revelation. Yeah. We don't know when the light bulb turns on. We just know it. The goal is to get it on, right?
Goal is to hook up that electricity. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The goal is to get it on. And that's really what I'm about. My thing is, every talk like this, you just never know when Herman Hudson would have said something. Somebody said, "I get it now." And that person could have probably been influenced by a lot of people over the years, trying to get them to get what you just said, that you may have not even take seriously consideration into this is going to be the life-changing statement when you might have even bypassed it. In our closing, man, when you look at the term effective living, what does effective living life look like to you? And I mean, at the end of the day, when you assess the whole term, challenge our viewing audience by giving your definition and what you're trying to work towards when it comes to that term.
So I would say that, finding what it is you're good at, which is a very difficult thing. Well, I won't say it's a very difficult thing. You may say, okay, I'm good at this, or you may have to assess like what other people are telling me that I'm good at, and then starting to walk in that. The difficult part is the consistency, continuing to do it day in and day out. That's the hard part. It's continuing to walk the journey, and that turns into being effective because just by definition and the consistency, just doing things over and over and over and over, you're going to naturally start seeing results. Whether it's taking a bite out of the food, when you eat your food, you eat it one bite at a time, and before long, it's gone. The plate is clear. So, effective living is tapping into your purpose, walking in it each day, right? Setting goals. That way you can be able to gauge where you're at. And then, if you're so blessed to be able to monetize that gift or maybe give that gift to someone else and they can monetize it to take care of themselves or their family, then you're effective.
I like it. Let me say this as we bring our talk to a close. You have made an adjustment with your profession. Tell us a little bit about that in our closing. What you do, how people can contact you if the services you have require, if you need what I do, contact me. Give us that spill on what you do and how people can connect with you.
So professionally, mortgage loan officer. So that's, buying homes, refinancing homes in the state of Texas, and actually nationally, because the company that I'm with, we refer out to, other branches that we have in other states. So mortgage loan officer, my NMLS number is 1938606. I'm licensed by the state of Texas. Again, that's purchasing homes, refinancing homes. Social media is at the @ Hutch 210, HUTCH 210. That's the social media. Herman Hudson on Facebook. But to reach me, you can actually reach me with respect to buying a home or refinancing a home directly on the business line of 254-534-2732. Text and then email. I'll spell it out real quick. It will be Herman, my first name as it is on the screen, .Hudson, spelled as it is on the screen, at fairwaymc.com. FAIRWAYMC for mortgage company.com. And that's for professional services. Social media is just me, positive all the time. I don't really deal with the negative because there's enough of that out there. So you can turn the page and get that anywhere else. Come back to me for the positive.
Come on, right? That's what I'm talking about. Come back to me for the positive. Herman, man, this has been a great talk. Thank you for spending some time with me this evening. 2 years, man. 2 years.
Yeah.
With this particular platform, we working it,
Yeah.
We are working it, and I'm extremely grateful. Every day I wake up with this incredible feel of appreciation for knowing that I've been given a day. But in addition, I'm learning how to appreciate the fact that I'm surrounded by some of the best people on the planet, and that it's good to know good people. And thank you, man, for being a friend. Thank you for being a supporter. Thank you for all that we're continuing to do as men in the lives of our family, in the life of our community, and what we're bringing to the marketplace in our services from a professional standpoint. So, man, thanks a million. Herman Hudson, ladies and gentlemen. If you've enjoyed this talk, make sure you check out his social media, follow up with him. You're looking into getting a house, check him out. Also, I'm encouraging you guys, if you're anywhere in the Texas area, make sure that you join us for our special event, Saturday, July 17th in Arlington, Texas. You can learn more about it on our website, Effective Living. What it's all about. Take control of your life. Good night, everybody. Thank you again, Herman.
Thank you, man.